It need not be reiterated on this channel how despicable the Japanese were in World War II. For those unaware of their policies and general culture during World War II, becoming a prisoner of war was the most dishonorable thing one could do, and so when the Allies were caught flat-footed in the Pacific and the Japanese captured them in droves, they could expect some of the worst treatment the war had to give. One of the many atrocities committed by the Japanese was the Borneo Death March, where only a mere 6 men out of 2,700 survived what came to be known as Australia's worst wartime atrocity. The accounts in this story are told by one Owen Campbell, who was one of the 6 survivors of the Death March and eventually lived to be the only one to recount the horrific tale. As most stories involving interactions between the Japanese and prisoners, starvation and torture were commonplace, and every prisoner of war was treated as a subhuman by their inhumane Eastern Guardsmen. Initially interned at Sandakan and the prisoners working under brutal conditions there, the Japanese eventually realized the Allies were closing in on the camp and the war was slowly but surely coming to an end. The Japanese, however, had no plans to surrender peacefully, and they wanted to inflict as much damage as they could to the enemy possible and die honorably for their ancestors. As a result of this, one of the inhumane orders that the Japanese telegraphed to their camp commanders was known as the Kill All Order, where the commanders could essentially choose how they would kill off the remaining prisoners, whether it be through fire, plain execution, or an excruciating death march, as of course was the case at Owen Campbell's prison. Although many camps didn't get around to fulfilling this heinous order, unluckily enough for the prisoners of Sandakan, their camp did, and they forced the prisoners to march on a devastating trail where many of them would meet their end due to starvation, disease, and exhaustion. Even the men strong enough to make it to the end of the trail were simply executed for their efforts as per the Kill All Order. So, the question remains, how did 6 Australian servicemen, including Campbell, manage to escape the trail? Well, 80 kilometers into their 260-kilometer hike, Campbell, suspicious of what was awaiting them at the end, tracked down one of the rare friendly Japanese guards there were and asked him personally. The guard told Campbell and some of the other prisoners that they would be executed when they reached their final destination at the village of Borneo, and he was ultimately right. Upon hearing this, the first batch of escapees, who were Campbell and 4 of his mates, made their getaway at the next available opportunity, which came in the form of American reconnaissance planes that made the Japanese guards scatter for cover. Campbell and his friends spent the next few days diseased and skeletal, hacking away at the thick jungle. The 5 men managed to learn the secrets on survival in the jungle and became adept at catching food. However, this was not enough for 2 of the men, who became so weakened with disease they could not carry on. One man, named Skinner, ended up slitting his own throat and taking his life as not to slow the rest of the group down. After 7 weeks in the jungle, Campbell was the last man alive. The 2 other men he was with were cruelly shot at point-blank range by a Japanese soldier after trying to hail what seemed to be a friendly fishing boat. Campbell's luck, however, was seemingly better, as he actually managed to find a friendly fishing boat and fish a man, who then took him to a group of Australian commandos and into the safe confines of a hospital on board a US Navy ship. Out of the 5 in the first escape attempt, Campbell was the only survivor. In July 1945, and almost at the end of the Death March, another group of Australians made an escape attempt and had much better luck than their brothers who had escaped previously. These 5 men managed to find a group of sympathetic locals who fed them and hid them from the Japanese until the end of the war, making these 5 Australians, in addition to Campbell, the only survivors of the Death March. Thanks to the testimonies of the men, a semblance of justice was found, and 3 Japanese captains were found to have been guilty of the massacre and were shot and hanged midway through 1946. Owen Campbell would later state in regards to his escape experience, "I can't explain what keeps you going. In a situation like that, you seem to get supernatural strength. Don't ask me where it comes from, but you don't stop. If you stop and lay down, you'll never get up." So guys, yet another story of Japanese brutality throughout the Second World War, and to me it's crazy to think that only 6 men survived the march intended to kill 2,700 people, and it nearly did its job as well. As per usual, let me know your thoughts and feel free to post any anecdotes you have of the Pacific in the comments section below, because you know I love reading them. And just before you go guys, if you want to help support the channel, make sure you check us out on Patreon, as most of the videos on this channel are demonetized, so any dollar really helps. And also, if you want to chat with other history buffs, make sure you check out the Discord. That link is in the description below as well. Anyways guys, as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something new.